A Sapphire Running Zone podcast.
Hi everyone, it's Tim from the Sapphire Running Zone, and this is another in our series of training support podcasts. And today we are looking at race day etiquette. Probably wonder why I would bother with something like that, but it is a really significant subject and probably more relevant really to the big events, but still some relevance to smaller events. So have a listen and you'll be surprised at some of the stuff we talk about. You take some of it for granted, but it really is worth having a listen because there are some really important things that you and others can get right on race day that really does have a major impact for everybody. So the first off, obviously you've got to make sure you're in the right start area and you might not have a lot of choice in this, certainly in the bigger races. But in the smaller races, a lot more flexibility and you have got the ability to get it wrong. So the reason, obviously, you need to make sure you're in the right area is that your day will be significantly impacted if you're not. So if you start too far up the front, then you're going to spend your whole race being overtaken by people. And if you start too far at the back, then you are going to spend your whole race overtaking people. And that can put a lot of pressure on you. And ironically, you can end up doing a lot more distance, believe it or not. I did a race, when was it? Probably 10 years ago. I did the Prague Marathon and I knew the race director there very well. And he very kindly gave me a start bib for quite near the front. And when I got to the race, I didn't realize that I was actually at the front. So there I am, probably at the time, a 4-hour marathon runner. And I am right at the start of the Prague Marathon with all the elite runners. Now, when you look around and you're surrounded by people who you know are probably going to end up doing about 2:10, 2:15, and you're probably looking at about 4 hours-ish, maybe a bit more, you're going to have a tough day. And obviously, I didn't overtake anybody in that race at all. And I got overtaken by, God knows, 8,000 people maybe. And that wasn't particularly pleasant. That's an extreme example, obviously. But if you're in a pen that's a corral that's too far at the front, you will be quite demoralized because you'll just end up being overtaken the whole time. And there's something psychological about being able to, something positive about being able to overtake someone. If you see them for a bit of distance away, you think, right, I'm going to get that person in the next mile. Well, if you're in the wrong pen, you're not going to overtake anyone at all. And you're just going to be that person that's being targeted. So one of the key issues, obviously, with the really big races is that your corral, your pen location will be dictated by the time you put on your application form. And that could be many months in advance. Somewhere like London, for example, you might have entered that race a year before the race itself. Now, yes, you can update them, most of them. You can update them on the console. You have access to your own sort of online space. And you will be able to change it, but a lot of people just forget to do that. And inevitably, you're going to be very different in a year's time. A lot of people are a bit over-optimistic and go, yeah, I reckon I could do a 3-hour marathon. Well, it takes quite a bit of work and a lot of training, a lot of quality training and some natural talent, obviously. And we haven't all got that. So, 3 hours might actually be 4.5 hours. So you could be in a pen that's completely wrong for you. And the flip side of that, obviously, is that you could be in a pen that's way too far back and you might have actually put on your form 5 hours and actually your training's gone so well you're in a 3.5, 4-hour bracket. Well, clearly, if you're in the 5-hour pen, you are going to be with runners who are a lot slower than you. And you will have a lot of overtaking to do and could well be a tricky time for you. So you get the message. It really does matter what you put on that form. You might not think it does, but it really does. So think really carefully. A lot of people don't even realize when they fill that form out right at the start of their marathon journey or the half marathon, 10K. They don't even know that actually dictates where they'll start, but it does. And it's absolutely crucial to get that bit right or your whole race day will be very, very different than you think it's going to be. So think carefully. If you do think you've got it wrong and you've got the opportunity to go back and correct it, then do so. And even if you need to do it 2 or 3 times, it doesn't matter. You need to do it. Now, what can you do on race day if, for example, you have got it wrong? You're too fast or you think you're too slow? your corral's the wrong one for you. Well, the chances are at most races you can go back. You won't be able to go forward. Whatever anyone says to you, it's very, very, very unusual to find a race that will allow you to go to a pen that's further forward. Further back generally isn't a problem. You may be able to change the little number that you'll have on your actual race number, and it's often that dictates what corral you're in. The event organisers or the marshals on the day look at that, and that dictates where you go. But they are flexible if you want to go backwards, but they're not flexible if you want to go forward. So just bear that in mind. Right, so once you've got moving, one of the key bits of etiquette, if you like, is don't walk in a group across the course. And this often happens when people in the wrong corral, they're in one that's too fast for them. If they were thinking of walking or their race prep, their training hasn't gone that well, they'll start walking, or they'll start walking right from the beginning sometimes. And that was always their intention. They just put the wrong race time, the wrong projected race time on their initial form. And you find this quite a lot of people, either twos and threes, sometimes one person, but just right in the middle of the course, right in the middle of the road. They don't move over to the side, which they absolutely should. But some people who are doing the race together decide they want to walk the whole thing, which is fine, but don't walk right across the middle of the road, because it means obviously that everyone's going to have to go around you. And this can happen quite a lot in big races in particular. A lot of people walk them and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all, but it's not great if you've got the whole load of people who are basically blocking the course up, really, and you do get quite a lot of incidents when this happens. The other key thing is if you do decide you want to slow down, you want to walk, move across to the side straight away. I had an incident in the London Marathon a few years ago, not that long ago, where it was early on. It was only maybe 5 miles or so, and somebody decided in front of me they were just going to stop. They were just going to have a rest. But rather than slow down gently and move across to the side, they just stopped bang in front of me. And of course, I went right in the back of them. Someone then went right in the back of me. And there were probably, a classic domino effect. There were probably 100 of us who went over. I went over quite badly and did quite a bit of damage to my leg. So I had blood everywhere. The crowd obviously were a bit shocked at what was happening, but it was a classic domino impact. All because one person decided they were going to have a rest, but just did it instantly. So stop, bang, and we all went over. So just think about that. And we all, there's plenty of times that we want a rest. Well, that's fine. But just slow down gradually, move across to the side, and don't cause a pile up behind you. So etiquette also applies to the water stations, and the water stations in the big races can be hundreds of meters long, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that. In smaller races, there might be 2 tables with some water on them, but in these big races, there are God knows how many tables, but they go on for, I was going to say miles and miles, but hundreds of meters. And you'd be amazed. Everyone piles in right at the start. So the first table is just packed and there'll be a queue. Whereas the last table, there'll be no one there. And these poor volunteers desperately holding their arms out with water in bottles or cups or whatever. And no one up there to take them. So go to the end. When you've got your water, have your sips, which you should be doing obviously every water station. You should take some sips of water. Once you're finished, don't throw it across the road. There will be giant litter bins all over the place. And the idea, obviously, is that once you finish your water, you will place your bottle or cup, whatever it is, into one of these bins. The idea isn't that you drop it right in front of you in the middle of the road, or you try and launch it 20 meters across the road and see if you can hit that bin, which looks really tempting but could be quite challenging, because that may well hit someone on the head, and it might be a half full bottle of water, and that can have quite an impact. And I've seen this so many times, so many people getting injured at water stations simply because somebody decided that they were going to do something that they shouldn't have done. And generally it involves throwing a bottle or dropping a bottle. So, or trying to skid one across the road to a bin. Just put it in a bin. If you've got to throw it into a bin, fine, as long as you're on the edge of the road and the bin's right next to you, fine, throw it in. If you miss, it doesn't matter because it's not going to hurt anyone. But you will be amazed how many times people get injured from these bottles getting thrown. It's not great. Right, don't barge. It's very tempting when you're on a bit of a roll to just want to pile through. You don't want to be weaving all around people. But this is one of the issues that comes when people are in the wrong start area. They, generally speaking, particularly the ones at the back who are in the wrong pen, significantly in the wrong pen, so maybe an hour in the wrong pen. Yeah, they should be in a 4-hour pen. They're in a 5-hour. And they desperately then realise that they've got a lot of overtaking to do, and they get sick of overtaking eventually. So what they do is they just drop the shoulder and gently ease people out of the way. And it can cause a lot of anger on a very busy race where there's 20 or 30,000 people, all with one goal. They don't want someone coming in from behind and giving them a whack. They just want to enjoy their race. If you're in the wrong pen, that's not that person's fault that's in front of you. That's your issue. So don't be aggressively moving people out of the way. It is really difficult when you've got a busy race. And basically, you've got a vast majority of people in the wrong pen. And it takes a while before the natural sort of position is established. It might be 10 miles before people are sort of running in the right area. Running in the right tempo, and a lot of the damage tends to get done in the early stages, a lot of the barging. But don't be one of those bargers. If you do bump into someone by mistake in a race, just put your hand up, say you're sorry, and we all move on. But some people can get really aggressive, particularly when they're trying to get themselves a good time. And I understand we want to get a good time, but there's a way of doing it, and we're all in this together. So don't barge, just be pleasant to people. It's an amazing day, and we're all there for the same reason. Toilets, restrooms. A lot of the big races will have portable facilities on the way around, and often, every 2 or 3 miles. It's chaos at the start of most races, and you've got to feel for race organisers because they have to spend a huge amount of money on bringing all these portable facilities in at the start of events. And there they are. They're all lined up at the start. And then there's always massive queues, and everyone moans there's not enough toilets. Well, those toilets are only needed for around an hour or so. And then they're all picked up. There are often a lot around the course, and the problem is that if you didn't want to queue up at the start, and you didn't go, then chances are you may well need to go on the way around. So it's a lot easier for guys, obviously, but whatever you do, try and go at the start. But if you didn't, or if you did and you need to go again, then use these facilities. And it's annoying because there are often queues, particularly in the early stages of a race. There are queues, and you might think, "Oh my God, I'm losing 2 minutes off my time." Well, it's a good chance to have a bit of a break, catch your breath a bit, but you also, unfortunately, do see a lot of people hopping over the hedges of people's gardens and, using their garden as a toilet, which clearly isn't great. It's not great for the householder. It's not great for the event organizer because inevitably there's friction then between the people along the course. No one likes to see that happening, and it happens a lot. Any city centre race where it goes past houses with gardens, it's very common to see people hopping over hedges. So try and avoid that if you can. I get that you might be absolutely super desperate and there's no facilities around. Well, it's not great, but you got to do what you got to do. But you'll see people down alleyways and all sorts. Sometimes nature does take over, but as a rule of thumb, avoid that if you possibly can, and use these temporary toilets. And if there's a queue, well, disregard it as a positive opportunity to have a bit of a break. Right, at the finish, clearly, the busier the race, the more runners, yes, the facilities will be bigger and wider at the finish, generally speaking, not always, but generally. But keep moving. That's always the message of the finish line of these races. There will be a constant stream of people. And in the big events, this might be 4 hours worth of people crossing that finish line. And it is unbelievable to watch. But all it needs is a handful of people hanging around, and the flow is impacted quite significantly. Keep moving. Generally speaking, there's a really good flow here. You'll come over the finish line, particularly in a marathon. You'll come over the finish line. You'll get one of these foil blankets. You'll get your goodie bag full of sponsors' products. You'll get your medal, obviously. Then there might be an area for finishers' photos. Then there'll be an area where you pick up your baggage, and there's a flow to it, and it's brilliantly organised. But what's really important is that you do your bit and you keep moving. Yes, you'll want to make the most of it and you want to enjoy it. And of course, you'll want to stretch somewhere. And if you're one of those that does stretch, well done. Find a place that's away from the busy flow. And there often are places where you can do that. I always find somewhere. Don't get in the way. Don't suddenly go to the finish line and think, oh God, I need to stretch now because I've done my race, because you'll just cause absolute mayhem. And one of the really important parts of finishing an event, not just finishing, actually all the way through the event, is to thank the volunteers. And we don't always remember to do this because obviously our head's full of stuff when we're going around the race. There are so many people involved in these events, so many people that don't get paid or get paid very, very small amounts. They might be working for a local community group and they've agreed to man a water station, or they've agreed to help hand out medals. Don't assume by any stretch that everyone's getting paid who you see around a race course. Thank them. Thank them when you see them at the water stations. Thank them for being there, and thank them at the finish when they're handing out the medals and the foil blankets and the people in the baggage trucks, because these guys do an unbelievable job. And without them, these races simply wouldn't happen. And there are hundreds of them. At these big events, there are hundreds and hundreds of people who give up their day to make your day extra special. So there's lots to think about. It's all fairly basic stuff, but does make a difference. If everyone thinks about the bigger picture, we'll all have an even better day. So do your bit and have a cracking day. See you again soon.
Thanks for listening to this Sapphire Running Zone podcast. Keep checking back as we have lots more podcasts coming soon.